Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And today we're going to go back over 50 years to India, to 1959, to the case that is stated to have wiped out civilian jury systems. I have the wrong glasses on. Those are not, okay. I'm just going to leave the glasses off. Anyway, we're going back to 1959 in India to the Nanavati trial. And it is said to be the trial that killed the civilian jury system, but there's a little bit of, not quite then, but it certainly did kind of push it in that direction. And it went, the basic jury system, the basic system in India now is the bench trial, which I am not opposed to. And so recently I've been very concerned about what I've seen in the Karen Reed trial, because all of the things that happened there happened, in my opinion, back in 1959 in India. And the same reasons I have a problem with the civilian jury system in the Karen Reed trial and others like the Casey Anthony, O.J. Simpson, I'll get into that, is the same reason. This trial was quite unfortunate, shall we say. And I'll explain what happened in this trial and why the judge that was presiding over this trial said, this is the most perverse verdict ever, and I'm tossing it out. And it went then to a bench trial of 2 judges and changed the verdict. So why would this happen? All right. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room. This is a patron only live. I have patron only lives so that we have a very pleasant group of people here, which I always enjoy. And if you'd like to be a part of that, please join Patreon. Link below, $5 a month. You come to 8 live shows, 2 every week. There's a case show like this and also a hangout during the week. And you're also part of the community. And it does help this educational channel. Or you can just subscribe to the channel and click that bell for notifications. Check my playlist. Hey, everything I do becomes public. I don't have any hidden videos because I want people to learn. Other ways to support the channel, my books below, or the little $sign, that helps out. Okay, that's my spiel. Got to do it. Okay, whew. And in case you see me sweating like a dog, it's because it is extraordinarily hot in Maryland. We're at 95. My air conditioning is not at 68 or 72. It's sitting near 80. So I'm hotter than heck. So anyway, so welcome everybody who's in the chat room. I said hello to a lot of people. Let's see what Loretta has to say. Since we're in India, we demand a choreographed dance from you. And I was a Bollywood dancer. I have been a Bollywood dancer. I danced with a Bollywood dance troupe for 4 years. I did get paid $50 to dance at an Indian wedding. So I'm pretty proud of that. And today you do see that I am dressed Indian style because I can finally get out of my usual Amazon shirts, which I just bought like different colors of thereof. but I can't come up with this excuse very often. But today I'm in a salwar kameez, which is, I just think the women's clothes in India are so pretty. Yes, I have a bindi and I have pretty earrings and I have bangles, and it just makes me happy. And that's why I love living in India, because I get to wear pretty clothes. So it's all good. Anyway, I'm the cutest thing ever. It's like saying potbelly pigs are cute. I did adore my potbelly pig, but some people thought that potbelly pig was really ugly. I thought it was cute. Anyway, all right. So, thank you very much. Oh, seriously, do you want to embarrass the heck out of me? All right, I will say this. Can you show us a bit of your Hindi? No, it's going to be really bad. I will say this. Main Hindi boti hu, which is I speak Hindi, lekin but tori, very little. So I'm not going to go further than that to embarrass myself, because if I do, you're going to say bakvash, which is basically, it's crap. So let's not go there. All right, let's get to the show. It really is hot. My God almighty. Whew. And if you're wondering why my hair looks really weird, it's because Get this. So I guess sit down to do my show, and I look in the camera. My hair's turned totally gray. I'm like, what the? I have been swimming, and I think that chlorine just leached crap out of me. So I went in the bathroom, and I'm like, I can't do totally gray. So I just sprayed the heck out of myself with some kind of, this is gold stuff. You got to have humor. Yes, my cat was here last night. My cat was here. The cat has been really weird, missed a few days, and then he came in last night and he ate his food, and I thought, and he just rolled right out. I'm like, yeah, thanks for that, dude. But then I looked over about an hour later, and he was sitting in my doorway, and I think he was sneaking back in for the dry food that I also put near my bed. So he's around. He's just being cagey and very feral. Okay, let's get to this really fascinating case. Okay, so we have some people here. This happened in 1959. And we have, well, it was considered a love triangle, but this became like this crazy case that, like the Karen Reed case, if you don't know what Karen Reed case is, the Karen Reed case, is basically Karen Reed was out drinking with her boyfriend, who was a cop, John O'Keefe, and then she went to drop him off at another friend cop's house, and then they supposedly had some little argument thingy, and she was really like DUI drunk, and she went home, and then she's like, whatever happened to John? And John ended up found dead in the morning because he'd been laying in the snow all night after the prosecution claimed she hit him with her car. And then the defense came and said, oh my God, no, she didn't hit him with a car. He actually went into the house, although all the witnesses there say, no, he didn't. And there's no proof of it. And then it became a big conspiracy theory and just went bonkers with the media, with a piece of crap called Turtle Boy and all kinds of nonsense. Well, it's not the first time. This is the trial that did like that kind of thing. And it helped end civilian jury trials in India. Okay, what happened? All right, let me introduce some of the characters. All right, so how do I want to introduce? Let me give you the very basics of the case first, and then I'm going to introduce the three main players here. On 27th April in 1959, Nanavati, this is at Kevas, Nanavati. He was a commander in the Navy. He was like a really highly respected man. And you can see, very, very good looking dude, very good looking. And he returned home from one of his assignments because he was out at sea a lot. And he found Sylvia, his wife, his British wife, aloof and distant. He questioned her. He's like, what? He's like trying to like touch her. She's like, get off of me. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And she, then that's where he started questioning her. What the heck is going on? Why are you acting this way? And he was very upset. And so what occurred was that he asked her, what was going on with you? And she said, is there somebody else? And basically she said, yeah, this dude, Prem Ahuja. Prem, by the way, means love in Hindi. So Prem Ahuja, love Ahuja. And so another handsome fellow. And he was away at sea so much that she was like home with 3 kids. And this dude was kind of a player. And she met him. He knew him too. They met and she fell for him. She fell madly in love with him because hubby was away so much of the time. She was lonely and fell to him. And so he said, what's going on? And she said, yeah, well, I'm kind of having like an affair with this dude, which did not make Kevas very happy. So at that point in time, what happened was he said, okay, I'm going to drop you and the kids, because they had 3 of them, off at the theater so you can watch this Tom Thumb movie or whatever it was. And I got something else to do. And he was like suggesting he might commit suicide, but apparently she wasn't totally convinced about that. So while she was at the theater, Kevas went and collected his pistol on false pretense from the stores, along with 6 bullets. He went to where he could that was part of the military. He went there and he gave an excuse for why he needed to get a pistol. It wasn't, he could requisition it, so he did. He got 6 bullets with it. He completed his official duties and proceeded to Ahuja's office. Ahuja was not at his office, so he went to his home, and he went into his home, and when he got to his home, now that's not really his home. It's from a movie, but okay, it's pretty. Anyway, so he goes into the home, and he walks in, and the servant says, "What's up?" And he just like brushes him off, and he goes, "Where is he?" And he's upstairs. He's basically in the bathroom. He's taking a shower and all that. So he goes up there, and I'm going to show you some pictures from a movie because that's all I got. I don't have crime scene photos, but we'll just show you this. So let me find the pictures. Okay. So here he is now. He's coming up the stairs, and he's dressed. Oh my God! This guy is a highly decorated military man, commander. He's handsome, and he's wearing this really nice white outfit, which is quite attractive. And here he is. He's going upstairs. He's got a folder. He's got an envelope in his hand, and the envelope supposedly has a gun. He has a gun in the envelope, and he goes in there. And he finds him in the bathroom, and there's a confrontation. And he asks Ahuja whether he intended to marry. Sorry, it makes me laugh. I'm going to have you be the jury in a little bit. I'm going to go through exactly what Kevas said during the trial. And I'm going to have you be the jury and say, does this make sense, or is the defense pulling our leg, But anyway, suppose there was a confrontation between the two men, because this is a man who was sleeping with his wife. There's not a question of that. His wife admitted it. It happened. So this was his wife's lover. So there was a confrontation. Now, supposedly the door was shut. The servant did not know what was happening behind the door until he heard 3 shots. Okay, here's 3 shots. And then when he comes in, well, that guy's dead on the floor. And you can see he was apparently in the shower, and he's wearing this towel around him. And there he is on the floor, you see. And then Kevas says, "Get out of my way, and I'm going to go turn myself into the police," which he does, mind you. He does do that. So that's the basic story of what happened. So he went ahead and he confessed to the provost marshal of the Western Naval Command, and on his advice turned himself in to the deputy commissioner of the police. This man was a highly respected man, very, very ethical, moral, upstanding. You can put all kinds of positive things to him. So what happened here? Now, I want to tell you this just a little ahead of time, that by the time this goes to trial, it's a defense thing, that he didn't go there to shoot him. It ended up being that there was a confrontation, and Prem, the lover, grabbed the gun, and they fought over it, and shot off 3 times, and Prem died. I will get into that in a bit. But I just wanted you to understand the basics about this whole thing. Now, before I continue, I want to talk a little bit about the couple. All right. This is so freaking interesting because one of the problems we have with a lot of cases in the United States, in the UK, in India, across the world, is that culture mixes, politics mix with what's happening in the courtroom. And one of the questions about the civilian jury system is, do we allow politics and culture to influence how we see the evidence? Is it okay? For example, with O.J. Simpson, the evidence was pretty clear that O.J. killed 2 people. It was overwhelmingly clear. However, The jury was rather pissed off about the politics of the time and the way the police behaved at that time, not in the OJ case, but in previous stuff. And so it became a racial political bit. And they decided, they said OJ, they found not guilty. People were outraged across the country because it was so freaking obvious that he was guilty. Freaking obvious. However, the jury said he was not guilty based on not the evidence, but their concerns over the political and cultural issues. The question comes down to this. Do we have civilian juries to be completely objective about the evidence, or do we have civilian juries to be how do we say this, to determine guilt or innocence based on what's happening in society at the time? Is this a societal verdict, or is it a verdict, a justice verdict based on a crime? Or are we going to set the crime aside and base things on what we believe should be happening in society today? It's an interesting concept. Let me go and just before I go back into the whole story, let me see if I can find with the teeny little pictures I have of what I want to express here. All right. This is by the way. Okay, let me tell you what I read first before I go to this. It was very hard to get too much information on this case. Wikipedia is like nothing. It was very hard to find information. But I was very, very fortunate to find out that there was a book, and the book was called this, In Hot Blood, the Nanavati Case That Shook India. It was great. This is a wonderful book. And by the way, it's on, you can get it from Kindle. I got it for I don't know if I got it for free or buck or whatever, but it was it was like almost free. So cool. And it was a very good book. Because for English speakers, you don't have much choice. You have this, the verdict, the case that divided India. This is it's on YouTube. You can go there, but unfortunately, it's 70% Hindi and maybe 30% English. So you're going to struggle if you don't speak Hindi. It's a bit of a problem. Also, there are fictionalized versions of this case because it's that important and so popular. We have Rustam is the most famous one. It's the most recent one as well. I looked everywhere for English subtitles. You can get English subtitles, but you'll have to order from eBay. You have to go to eBay to get the actual DVD. I'm not even sure I have a DVD player anymore. You can get a DVD and it will have English subtitles. But other than that, online, it's free on YouTube, but there's no English subtitles. So unless you speak Hindi, you're screwed. It's quite interesting that the version of it. Now, mind you, this is not documentary. This is a fictionalized thing. And then you have another version called Achanak and another version here called Ye Raste Hai. I'm trying to read it now. Pyarke, which basically means all the avenues to love, all the avenues lead to love, something like that. So this is the oldest one. None of them have English subtitles. I looked everywhere, including places that are, like Daily Motion, where you can get a lot of things which are, I don't know how legal that is, but anyway, you can sometimes get things there that you can't get everywhere else. Couldn't find one thing in English, but I was fortunate to read the book. I found the book. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited because I'm going to read you from that book. And it answered so many questions I had about this case, which I could not find by Googling. So it did not. So but these are things. It became this case where people were fascinated by this case. Why were they fascinated by this love triangle? And believe me, it was really, truly, it was put out in the press as a massive love triangle. Oh my God, 3 shots that shook the nation. This is Blitz. This was a huge media organization at the time. And this relates to how we in the United States allow media to control us, and also YouTube to have people come up and do what they want to do. I'm going to get into a little bit about the issue of the community issues, that Nanavati was a Parsi, and Prem was a Sindhi, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so but oh my God, the tragedy of the eternal triangle, the story of love and torture. All right, all of this stuff was exploited. That was exploited because the media opened their big mouths, and there was no, they weren't, the jury was not sequestered, and the jury was, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was 9 people. I'll get into that in a minute. And all men, by the way, and by 1959, so what can I say? So this huge case comes forth, and the whole thing turns into a huge circus, a circus between the media, with the media and the communities, and the cool concept of this love triangle. And before I continue, I just want to give you a little more information on the love triangle, just so you understand. Okay, so in India, one of the things they referred to was the Ramayan, and I will try to explain this to you. The Ramayan is a story, a spiritual, religious story. I'm not going to. It is a story about how things came to be, shall we say. I'm going to read it to you because it's kind of hard to read there. All right. But I will say that if you look over here on the left, you'll see a picture. Rama and Sita. Rama is the king, basically. Rama and Sita is his wife. Were very happy. This is really a pitiful storyboard done by probably a 10-year-old. But anyway, that's what I could find. They're very happy and are married. And then the king sent Rama and Sita into the forest, which had to live there for 14 years, which really sucked. So anyway, they were Rama and Sita were married, and they were shoved off into the forest for 14 years. One day, a deer came out. Let me show you that. Look at the second picture. That's a deer. A deer came out. And Sita said to Rama, "Please catch it. It is so pretty." So Rama went off to hunt down the deer, but he didn't realize that it was just a trap to get Sita alone. So this deer came out, and then Sita was by herself, and Ram was off. And so her husband, Ram, was off. And meanwhile, in the third picture, a holy man came along. He wasn't really a holy man, and offered somewhere to rest and eat for Sita. This is terribly written, by the way. But what Sita didn't know was that the holy man was actually Ravan, a bad man who wanted Sita to be his new wife. So she was there, and her husband got lured away, and Ravan came, and he was a bad guy. He's like an evil, super evil dude, and he came and lured her. And he basically grabbed her and kidnapped her. Okay, so looking on the bottom left, when Ram heard that where Sita was, because he found out she had been kidnapped by Ravan, he was upset, and he went to find Hanuman. That's a monkey. That's a monkey god. And they went to rescue Sita, and they did. They rescued Sita. And then in the middle picture, you see Ravan and Rama fought the armies until Rama killed him with a magic spear, and then Sita and Ram were together again. And then the last one says they went back to the kingdom, and then they lived happily ever after, which, if you actually know the story of Ram and Sita, not so true. But anyway, if you're not Indian, you don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the press came out with this whole thing, that this was essentially, who was this? This was Ram. Who was this? This is Sita. Who was this? Bad guy. Evil bad guy. And then we start having a cultural issue. You would think the cultural issue had to do with Sylvia because she's British, but that's not true. Okay, I'm going to read you. I just want to read you a little bit about her. Sylvia. She was originally Sylvia King. She met and soon married Kevas in her hometown of Portsmouth, where, like all Indian naval officers in the early years, he was undergoing training at the Royal British Navy facility. Now, take a look. This is Kevas in his early years. See if I can find him. Oh, hold on a second. Here he is. All right, this is Kevas on the left, handsome dude, and his two friends. So they're like what a great time in the UK. So an Indian guy goes there. He's a part of the Navy. He gets trained, and he's a hot-looking dude. And his friends are all very spiffy. They go out, and they have a great time. Check this out. Sylvia, she's on the left. Sylvia's a very attractive woman. And then there is some guy, I don't know who the heck he is. And then Kevas is the really handsome guy staring straight at the camera, good-looking dude, and another woman. Now, you notice that she appears to be already in a sari. I'm not understanding why in 1952, but okay. So they meet, and they fall in love. They return to Bombay within the year. In 1940, this is 1949. They return to Bombay, which is now Mumbai. Okay, because all the names have changed. But back in the day, it was Bombay. And they got married in 1949. The family, his family, who is Parsi, I'll explain Parsi in a minute. They liked her a lot. They really liked her. Why? Because the admirable way she adjusted to her new life. She was a devoted wife, a devoted mother. She had 3 children. She took on all the responsibilities while he was floating around on his boat. Ship. Every Navy person will punch me. Ship. He's floating around on a ship someplace. She is holding up the fort at home. She does PTA meetings. She did homework, swimming, birthday parties, weekly visits to the grandparents. She was so acculturated. Acculturated, that's the word here, that she even prepared the children for the initiation ceremony of, I can't pronounce this, Navhote or Navjote. I'm not sure because I can't see it in actual Devanagari writing. So I don't know what the English translation is. Teaching them the difficult Zoroastrian prayers. The Parsis are Zoroastrians, so that's a whole nother thing I will tell you about in a minute. An old Persian from an English transliteration of the Holy Avesta. This woman was amazing. Now, let me show you a picture of. I just love this picture. That is an incredibly good-looking couple, and for British, she's a British wife, and she immediately is in a sari. She hooks up in the Parsi community. She's like totally blends in, and her in-laws love her. Even after he shot her lover, even after she had an affair with this dude, they were still on her side, which is phenomenal. I mean, so they truly, I think her in-laws, her mother-in-law, her father-in-law, the family was so impressed by her basically blending into Indian society, blending into Parsi society, that they stood by her. Because I think they knew that her husband was so long gone much of the time, and I personally think that they knew more about him than the public persona thing. I think they might have known that although he was a great commander and all these other things, that maybe he had some personality things that left her feeling unloved, which is why she hooked up with Prem, who is not a Parsi. All right, let me explain Parsi and Sindhi to you, because this does play into it. This is a cultural thing where we see this in the United States as well when we're talking about cases, where we're like, sometimes it's racial, sometimes it's religious, sometimes it's just all kinds of cultural things. All right, let me tell you about basically Parsi and Sindhi, because a lot of people don't know that. Let's see if I can find. Ooh, hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it here. I want to explain to you Parsis because it's really a fascinating historical thing. Okay, so he is a Parsi. What does that mean? Most people, when they look at India, the first thing I think is everybody's Hindu. Not everybody is Hindu. There are people. Okay, Hindu is probably the largest religious group, and then next is I might be wrong about this. If you're Indian, just roll in. But I'm just doing this off the top of my head. First, you have Hindu. Then you have Muslim. I'm trying to figure out who comes next. There are Christian groups, Catholic, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, but very small, evangelicals. There are some Jews. There are Buddhists. There are definitely Parsis, Sindhis. Okay, so, there's a whole pile of people. All right. What are Parsis? Now, the Parsis, there are not very many of them left. 57,000 left in India, which is really incredibly small. All right. So what happened? So they actually came out of Persia, which is now Iran. And Farsi is a language of Iran back in the day, and maybe still today. Farsi, that's where Parsi came from. So anyway, they rolled into India, and they're Zoroastrians as opposed to being Muslim. So it's a very unique religious group. But they were very, very strong, a small group, but strong in Bombay at the time, Mumbai today. Very strong little group. And this made a huge difference. If you look at one of these movies, one of the things they show in the movies, which I thought was kind of interesting. So here is Kevas taking Sylvia, his wife, this is during the trial. Now this is all fictional, but taking her to a car, and there's this huge amount of people outside cheering him on, cheering him because he is Parsi and they're Parsi. So the whole huge amounts of the community came out to support him. We see this in the Karen Reid trial. We had a huge group of people come out to support Karen Reid, free Karen Reid. Why? They didn't know Karen Reid. They weren't even part of a community, but they were part of an internet community that decided Karen Reid was innocent, run by a complete whack job. I think that's not a psychological label. So since I'm not a psychologist, I can't give a psychological label that starts with psycho. But I'm a whack job because I think that's acceptable. And they followed him like a cult. And then they showed up outside the courthouse enraged and showing signs, free Karen Reid. Well, in this situation, he was Parsi. So even though it was a smaller group that existed in Bombay at the time, they all showed up shrieking for him because he was a decorated commander, a very, very and handsome as heck. I mean, so they were solely supportive of him, and they thought he had every right to shoot him because it was Sindhi. Okay, Sindhi. Let me tell you who they are. In a very quick way. All right, let's go to the Sindhis. All right, the Sindhis are actually Hindus. They lived in Pakistan. And what happened was, so I'm just trying to get you the basic information. Okay. So what happened was when you have to understand a lot about what happened with the partition, which most of you don't know, but if you're Indian, you definitely know what I'm talking about with partition. So during all that kind of stuff, the breakup of Pakistan anyway, the Sindhis were a large ethnic group, and some of them ended up in India, shall we say. All right, so okay, I'm trying to go through Wikipedia and a whole bunch of information here just to get to the important part. They ended up in Mumbai, and they did very well. He was actually fairly wealthy. He was extremely wealthy. So, and there was this whole idea that this particular group were a little bit sleazy, like they were doing things. It was doing things to make money that weren't exactly acceptable, especially during that prohibition in India. And he was like drinking a lot and had a lot of liquor, and maybe there was selling going on. not that Parsis didn't drink, they did too. It's interesting because Hindus in general are way less drinkers than Parsis, but okay, this is the whole kind of stuff that goes on. So anyway, he became the evil guy. He became the upstanding guy. Like this guy is commander. This guy is a playboy, drinking, and a guy who lures women in. He lured Sita. Oh, I'm sorry, Sylvia. Sita. He lured Sita, and he lost his wife to this evil man, and therefore, and she couldn't help herself. She fell in love with him because he was off, and she could off doing what he had to do, and so she fell in love with him. And then he basically dissed her, and he stood up for his wife against the evil Prem. So this is what went out in the papers. So here we have things like this. 3 bullet shots that shook the nation. Blitz. Blitz is the big people. Story of love and torture. The tragedy of the eternal triangle. Blitz was on his side. Blitz was a Parsi-run newspaper. So even back 50 years ago, media took sides, and they took his side. And therefore, there was a huge, huge pressure on the jury, which was 9 people, to find him innocent. Now, the next thing you might ask is, how many were Parsi? How many were Sindhi? How many were not anything? It took me a long time to find that out because there was nothing written except in that book that I read. It turned out that, okay, now I don't have it in front of me now. I think 5 people were actually Hindu, and the other 6 were a mix of Parsi. I think there were 2 or 3 Parsi, maybe 2 Parsi, Christians, whatever. So actually, it leaned in some senses to his side. So I think that when they started to try to figure out who was going to be on the jury, they wanted to make sure that it was fair, as always trying to find out who is not going to be swayed by their religion or swayed by their culture or swayed by the community. So that's what went on. I want to point out just a couple things before I go into, you're going to be the jury in a second. This was said, I thought this was brilliant. In every criminal case, the benefit of the doubt must accrue to the accused. All right, I agree with that. That's where the reasonable doubt comes in. Fali Nariman explains the sticky issue. The prosecution has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond any doubt, only a reasonable doubt. And therein lies the rub. I've said this over and over. People don't understand the difference between doubt and reasonable doubt. They think it has to be like, there can't be one question in your mind. And I keep saying it's the totality of the evidence. The problem is that, quote, reasonable doubt resists exact measurement and varies with different perceptions of different judges. It is often approximated to a certainty of between 80 and 90%, never 100%. That's the point. People don't get that. When you're a jury, there's not 100% doubt. Oh my God, there's no question this guy. Well, there can be, but that's not what you use to determine whether they're guilty or not. It's reasonable doubt. So if you have the totality of the evidence pointing to him, there's no reasonable doubt. There might be, you can always have doubt, and people go, well, it could have been aliens. They'll come up with one whack job concept. Or it could have been that. Well, it could have been, but it isn't. And there's no proof that it was. So reasonable doubt. Okay, let's go further. Saying that reasonable excluded such doubts as merely fanciful. A lot of people have fanciful doubts, like the alien thing. Or in the Karen Reed case, that you want to the fanciful thing there is that there's a huge collusion between every single person in the house, the police, the medical examiner's office. There's so many people involved to make this huge conspiracy That's fanciful. That's not reasonable. Nariman offers a definition of the great English judge, Lord Denning. If the evidence is so strong against a man as to leave only a remote possibility in his favor, which can be dismissed with a sentence, quote, of course it is possible, but not in the least probable. The case is proved beyond reasonable doubt, but nothing short of that will suffice. Nariman adds, the measure of a jury's persuasion has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond. The threshold of proof required in a criminal trial is very high. Mere balance of probabilities will not do. Oh, thank you. This is what I've been saying over and over again, because, people want a perfect world. Oh, the prosecution must perfectly prove 100%. There's no question. Well, outside of a video and DNA mixed together, probably you're not going to get 100%. You're going to get 90%, 95%. But if 95% is there, that's totality of the evidence. I was so thrilled to see this guy say that. All right, okay. Sorry, don't go there yet. Okay. So now we have this situation, this case. And now I'm going to check on some of your comments, and I want you now to be the jury as I go through what he even says occurred. And you tell me as I'm going along. Mind you, the outcome of this case was it? No, I'm forgetting. 8-1. 8-1? Only one person was a holdout of the civilian jury. They found him not guilty. The only holdout, let's see if I can find this and not screw it up. Hold on a second. Okay, here he is. Here's the holdout. Steeped in the guy was British, which is interesting. And was not really part of the community on either side. He was for order and correctness. The jury is supposed to be sequestered, but he would tell us of the lines of Parsis standing on the sides of the court and bombarding the jurors as they took their places. He's innocent. He's not guilty. He's not guilty, they would holler. In an interview with Man's World when he was 102, dude, the dude lived to 102. One of the jurors, he could still recall the ferocious attitude of his fellow jurors. They were tremendously against me and berated me relentlessly after I made my stand clear. If the crowds outside had known who the lone dissenter was, they would have lynched me. This only one guy held out. But in the U.S., mind you, that would have worked because we have to have unanimous. In India, it wasn't required to be unanimous. I don't know what the actual percentage has to be. But there's one guy saw the evidence as the evidence, and he's like, I can't go with not guilty. And as he said, things would have gone very badly for him if they knew who he was at the time. Luckily, he survived, which is why he made it to 102. Outside what he was talking about, let me see if I can find. This one. It's very funny. Okay, no, that's not it. I'm trying to find this one. It's very crap. I can't find it. Hold on a second. I'm just clicking through to see if I can find it. Okay, I can't find it. Okay, let me look on. It's really kind of funny when he's talking about the crowds outside. Let me see if I can find it. It was amazing. The crowd. I thought I had a picture of that. I swear to God, I did. There was a very funny thing that they said. Where is it? Oh, come on. It was great. Really? Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, I don't know where. I thought I put up his picture, but listen to this. Bombay hawkers, now people selling crap, always with an eye on the main chance. They're outside of the court. They were selling Ahuja towels because he was found with a towel around him. They were selling Ahuja towels, as well as a toy Nanavati gun because he shot him with a gun. And they also said Nanavati ka pistol, bang bang. Okay, Nanavati ka pistol means Nanavati's pistol, bang bang. Then they said Ahuja ka taulia, which means Ahuja's towel. Morenga to be nahi, Gringa, you'll die, but it won't fall off. Now, this is going to be a part when I'm going to go through the case with you, the actual crime scene. You tell me why his towel didn't fall off. All right, we're going to get to that. That they sold a lot of stuff outside. And this is like a huge circus outside the courthouse, which I don't think should have been allowed. I don't think it should have been allowed in the Karen Reed case or in any other case, because this should be a serious thing. All right, so now I'm going to check on your comments. I'm going to go to the actual case. I'm going to read you what was said in the case. And you tell me as we go through this, do you think he was not guilty or he was guilty? Now, mind you, he shot this man. There's no question he shot his gun. There were 3 shots fired and they killed this man. There's not a question about that. He went to the police and said, this man is dead. I killed this man. However, by the time he got to trial, he said it was self-defense. No, I take that back. It wasn't quite self-defense. It was an accidental shooting that he grabbed for the gun and it accidentally went off and he got shot in a tussle. All right. So I'm going to go through the story here and you're going to tell me what you think as we go through it, what you find to be red flags or things that don't bother you at all. All right. So I'll go check on some of your comments. Oh, that's an interesting comment. Kurt says, way too short fuse for a high-ranking military dude. Very interesting point. Yes, this is a guy who supposedly has great control over his behaviors decides to do this. Is it because he was so upset that the wife he believed was true to him did it completely throw him off? Or is there something we don't know about him? So which one is that? Weevil said, it is evident he put his gun and ammo in the envelope to mail to the cleaners. I don't know if that's true. And went to shake hands with the wife's lover, accidentally using the hand with the envelope. I have no idea what you're talking about, but interesting thought. I'll have to get to the details of this crime in a minute. This is a good point. Lenova, I think it's important for juries to have private entrances where they don't cross paths with or see protest crowds. Or, in the Karen Reed case, that they go home and look everything up on the internet and see what everybody's saying. That is outrageous. It's really tough. Kurt says, in this case, reasonable doubt might be, for example, the gun was already there and more people had access to it and the victim. That's for starters. This is reasonable. Okay, Kurt, this is where the defense went to. That made some sense. Some sense. Or did it? They're talking about the Delphi case, the Odinist. That was the stupidest story ever. But anyway, yeah. The defense will throw out anything because seems to be no rules on the defense and how pitifully they can behave. All right, let's go to some of the story. All right, mind you, he had this argument. So his wife, the wife tells him, "I'm cheating with this dude." She confesses it. She confesses she's rather in love with him because. Whatever reasons, while he was away at sea, she came in contact with him and fell for him. Absolutely fell in love with him. It wasn't just a sex thing. She fell in love with him. But she's already a married woman, 10 years married, 3 children, exemplary commander of the Navy, and a good-looking dude in his own. Why the heck is she hooking up with Mr. Playboy? Well, she was lonely. And there was enough evidence that it wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't just a sex thing. She was truly enamored by him. And he really liked her, but, not enough maybe to decide to marry her and all this crap. So the two of them, she realized that he probably wasn't, if she left her husband, she wasn't necessarily going to be able to run off with him. She started realizing that. So it kind of hurt her. Anyway, on the following day, okay. This is what Nanavati said. So I'm going to tell you a lot of what Nanavati is saying at the actual trial. Nanavati, Kevas Nanavati, he said that he carried the revolver. So he went and got this revolver. Mind you, he got it, he requisitioned it. He went in and said, I need this for whatever reasons he needed it. He didn't own a revolver of his own. He requisitioned it. So he went purposefully to the Navy and requisitioned it, signed it out, and he made sure it was fully loaded. Mind you, that was after he dropped his wife and the 3 kids at the movie theater. So after she told him all this stuff, and he's like, and there was supposedly this, like, I could kill myself over this. And she like, I don't know if I believe it or not. But he dropped her off, and she's like kind of stunned, sitting there with the 3 kids in the movie theater. She had no idea what he was up to. He goes to get the gun. Now, what do you say right there? I just want to know your thoughts. The gun was not just happening to be in his possession. He went and got the gun. Thank you very much. Looks premeditated. Now, he will claim later that, it was because I was going to kill myself. But he went and made sure he had a gun with all the bullets in it. Not just 1 or 2 to kill himself off, but enough to shoot down somebody. All right. So yes, premeditation galore. All right. Extended crime of passion. Well, that's an interesting way to put it. Extended. Well, there's no question that you have to understand the concept of crime of passion is that the only reason you committed it is because your heart broke at that moment to such an extent that in the rage of what having your heart ripped apart, you committed this crime. I've said this over and over again. I'll say it again because I think it's worth saying over and over again. I've said this. You go into your bedroom, you come home from early from whatever. You walk in, you find your spouse in your own damn bed with some other person having sex. What do you do? If the person says, I would go get my gun and shoot them, how much of a crime of passion is that? Yes, your heart's broken, but you made the effort to go get a gun. The idea is in your head that you would kill people. And a lot of times if you ask people, if you found this, what would you do? They say, I would go kill them. Well, that's already premeditated in your head. Now, I had never thought that with my husband. I'm divorced. And I pictured that in my head. Come home, find my husband in bed with some other woman. What would I do? And I own a 9mm Smith & Wesson. Never once did I think I'd go to the safe, pull the 9mm, pull the Smith & Wesson out and blow them away. Never once. Did I imagine I would shriek and yell and throw things? Yes. Could I imagine myself punching him? Yes. Never imagine myself punching her. Punching him? Yes. Okay. So we know what premeditated is to me. Premeditated to me is yelling and punching my husband and throwing crap around. I confess that is exactly what's premeditated. But never did I premeditate shooting anybody or hurting the woman that was with him. Never, ever did I think of that. Why? Because even though my heart might be broken at the crime of passion, which does not exist, you do what you are willing to do. He clearly had a premeditated notion of killing anybody who would mess with his wife. To him, that what he did was despicable and therefore deserved whatever punishment he put out. So he says this. He says he carried the revolver. Now, mind you, first it was interesting. First he went to his workplace and he wasn't there. What do you say about that? He got the revolver, he requisitioned it, did the effort, dropped his wife and children off at the movie theater so he'd be free. Goes over and gets the gun, which is not in his possession, lies about why he's getting it, gets the gun, and then he goes to his place of work. What do you say there? Ooh, he had time to consider his actions. Lots of time. Okay, Clarissa, does his wife get no blame at all? Oh, she got lots of blame, depending on which side you're on. Okay. Regardless of what she does, this is the problem that we have even today. The Menendez brothers. I've been fighting this Menendez brothers forever. The Menendez brothers, people believe that the Menendez brothers should be released from prison because they had a reason to kill their parents in cold blood. The two Menendez brothers plotted. They got a shotguns. They went in, they blew away their parents, went back out, reloaded, came back in, and his mother was crawling across the floor, shot her again. Then they went and spent all their money. People are saying, oh, but they were sexually abused when they were children. That means that the parents were not innocent. Therefore, there is acceptable to kill them. I'm sorry. The law says you cannot do that. If you want to consider her a bad person for hooking up with him behind her husband's back, cheating on him, you can think that all you want. I'm not going to argue with you. But does that give him the right to murder somebody because his wife was unfaithful? Is that within the law? If that's within the law, then you better put it in the law where, okay, if your spouse commits adultery, you have 100% the law backing you to blow them away. Or if your parents ever abused you when you were a kid, whatever that abuse level is, they were mean to me. They sexually assaulted me. They wouldn't give me money. They wouldn't give me money to go to camp. Whatever you think. Okay, the law supports us. You can kill them. You can come back later and kill them because it pissed you off. If the law says that, if the law, there's honor killings in certain countries. Honor killings say you can do that. At least in certain countries where the law has not said you can't do that anymore. But in some countries, if a woman has a relationship with a man that was not approved of by her father and brothers, they have the right to go and blow them both away. If you're good with that, then you're good with that. He should have been blown away. The Menendez brothers should have blown away their parents because you don't like how they behaved according to your society. But my point is, if your society wants to condone that within the law, then that's a whole nother issue. But in India at the time, the law did not state that you may blow away your wife's lover because it hurts your butt, regardless. It's just, we also don't know. Let's just put this straight. She broke her vows. I don't know anything about this guy. People like to present him as like this wonderful man, but maybe there was a reason she broke her vows. I just don't know. It was a way totally. She was alone so much of the time. Was he off doing whatever he wanted to do and she was left with all the work? Did he not give her the love and appreciation she needed? Did she think he was cheating on her while he was running around the globe? I don't know. I'm not saying what she did was right, but I just don't know about this guy either. But one thing I do know, the law does not permit that he blows away this guy because this guy's sleeping with his wife. That's not within the law. So, oh yeah, well, the judge was confounded, completely shocked that he wasn't found guilty. I'm going to get into that in a minute. This is true. I'll get back to it later. They did get back together. This is actually, as a matter of fact, one of the things that influenced the trial was that she showed up at the trial every day for him. She supported him. Once her lover was blown away, she was kind of like, oh my God, now my father, should I try to save the father of my 3 children? And she showed up in white sari every day. And that gave him, to some people, the idea that what he did wasn't so wrong, that she had been lured by this playboy dude, this handsome playboy dude, lured the poor innocent Sita. She didn't know what she was getting into. She lost her all sense, and she went with the playboy dude. So therefore, this guy is 100% the bad guy, and therefore that's why he killed him, and that's why his wife stood by him. So this became part of the reasoning for the jury. This is what is so fascinating. However, okay, so let's go to, so far we got a guy who clearly he's left his wife and children at the theater. He's gone to requisition. They're gone. He goes to his place of work. He's not there. He doesn't stop there. He then goes to his home. And let's look at what happens in his home, which I find absolutely fascinating. Okay, this is not really his home again. Bollywood house. All right. What does he say when he's telling his story? When Nanavati first went to the police, he basically said, "I killed this guy. I confess." But once the defense attorneys got a hold of him, they made up a new plan for him, which was, "Oh, I didn't kill this guy because I went there to kill him. I went there to just talk to him, and then it all went out. He grabbed my gun, and then it was an accident." That's what it went to. Let's see what he says. He carried the revolver to Ahuja's residence because his wife had said that the latter might shoot me. I took it for self-protection. Now, I want you to point out all these things. When you say, "My wife told me this," by the time the wife is his supporter, that is what she will say. So you can't believe that the wife actually told him he would shoot him and he needed self-protection. However, when he requisitioned the revolver, quote, "All that was in me was to put an end to my own life." So now he's claiming that he didn't get the revolver for self-protection, but to kill himself. "I was not thinking I would need it for self-protection." Okay, you can't keep your story straight, dude. "It was on the way back from the ship that I had a sudden impulse." Sudden impulse. I love sudden impulses. I will be doing a review, by the way, of the Madeleine McCann book by Bernie. That is called Sudden Impulse. Sudden impulse is a funny statement. Sudden impulse. That means that suddenly I decided to do this. Sudden, when you hear sudden or suddenly, you usually has a lie coming up after that. It wasn't sudden at all. It was like you already had that in your head, and now you're trying to claim that you didn't really think that way, but it's shocking. You had no control. That's what you're trying to say. So suddenly, he had a sudden impulse to see Ahuja. So his wife tells him she's sleeping with a dude. He gets a gun, supposedly to kill himself, but now instead of killing himself, he just says, "I got to talk to this dude." It was on the way. Okay, so I had the sudden impulse and asked him what his intentions were. I'm sorry. Okay, I want to ask you right here. Why would he go ask him what his intentions were? Somebody tell me. This is part of the jury night. You're the jury. Yes, by the end of the statement, he's going to make himself look like a victim. You're correct on that. Okay. The lover stole the government and committed suicide. No, not quite. Not quite. Thomas, good question. Does premeditated mean having thought about or fantasizing about killing someone, or does it mean actually pre-planning? It just means you can be premeditated within seconds of a crime. In other words, you can be at your car, see the person you don't like, and say, "That I hate that dude. He needs to be dead," and then shoot him. You don't have to premeditate like, "Okay, I'm going to plan this out. I'm going to get this gun. I'm going to do." No, you don't have to do all that. It can be just seconds before. But in Kevas, Nanavati's case, he seemed to be premeditating a whole lot of crap. Okay, this is interesting, because if his intentions were to continue the affair, he would kill him. Interesting. I like what you're saying there. So that would make sense to some extent, that, okay, I'm going to get this gun. I'm going to go see Prem. I'm going to say, "What are your intentions to my wife? Are you going to continue with my wife, or are you going to just say, 'Hey, I'm done'?" And this will show in a minute what that exactly comes out to be. Oh, that's interesting. Tim says, "As a man of honor, we give the seducer a chance to defend himself." Oh, okay, that's very interesting. So he goes there and he's going to ask him certain questions. Are you going to, and you're going to see how important this is in a minute. Okay. Lisa says, intentions. Are you going to marry her and make an honest woman out of her now that you've taken and defiled her? All right. Oh, very, very good. You can take my wife, but not my towel. Hell no, bang, bang. Very funny. Okay. All right. So he wants to go find his intentions. He tells the hushed court that he didn't think he had given his wife any reason to seek out another man. That's interesting. Nothing I did caused my wife to want to be with another man. How about the fact you were never home? I don't know. This guy's supposed to be this perfect man, but I'm starting to see things about him that are very manipulative, and he isn't always a truth teller. So I don't trust him. Good looking dude that he is doesn't mean that I trust him, or that his wife trusts him, or that their marriage wasn't in trouble. All right. Then he was asked, did you go to Ahuja's house to persuade him to leave your wife alone? So this is what Kevas says. The accused says this: no, I did not go to persuade Ahuja about anything. I went there only to ask what his intentions were. I wanted to ask if he was prepared to look after my wife and children. Okay, that's what he claims he went there for. Will you take care of my wife and children? What is your comment on that? What do you think about that? Oh, that's interesting. Controlling? Okay. What do you think about the comment? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. Sounds legit. Sounds legit. Okay. BS. BS. Everybody's gone on the BS. More. Oh, shoot. More BS. So implying he would kill himself so Prem would take care of his wife after he's gone makes him look like the good guy. All right, now let me see if I can find the comment in this bunch of stuff here. Excuse me why I ran through it really quickly. Okay, because I know it's here. Oh, here we go. One of the reasons that the judges were appalled by this, it says, it was inconceivable that the accused should willingly hand over the custody of his children to an adulterous wife and her paramour. He had parents and a brother to whom he could have entrusted his children. Bingo. The dude, first of all, was a Parsi. The guy is hand his wife over, his cheating wife and the cheating man over, and his kids, 3 children. He's going to give it to his wife's lover, who's a Hindu, not even a Parsi, when he's got family. Like, okay, if you intend to take care of her, I'll just give all of them over to you as long as you pay for their education. This was not a poor man. It wasn't like he was desperate. Get out of here. I mean, he's a liar. Absolutely 100%. Oh, that's a good point. That doesn't make sense unless he wanted to get rid of his family. Oh my God, yes. This is a good point. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. This one. You can have her, but I'm keeping the kids. That I can believe, but that's not what he said. So to me, that was nonsensical and a lie. Now let's go to the next part. Nanavati, maintaining his stoic expression and his level voice, repeats that it was only as, quote, I was about to go to Ahuja's house that I remembered that what my wife had told me, that he might shoot me. So then I took the revolver for self-protection. So now going back to this. All right. The judge says, I think it's a judge. It's Kandalavala. After your wife's confession, might have been the attorney, but I forgot who is who. Okay. After your wife's confession about a relationship with Ahuja and being unfaithful to you, what were your thoughts about dropping her and the children to the Metro cinema? The accused, which is Nanavati, several thoughts had passed through my mind, but I had not come to a definite decision. I was upset at the time, but no particular thought was uppermost in my mind. Well, of course, he wants to get rid of premeditation. Okay, what did you tell your wife after she stopped you from going to see Ahuja immediately after your disturbing conversation? The accused said, I told my wife we would talk it over the next day. And Nanavati then says, there had been no thought of divorce. He wanted to keep his wife and his kids. He wanted to keep his family, which I give him credit for. Maybe he knew that his wife was either extremely lonely because he was never there, that this guy was a good Lothario and just love bombed her and she fell for it. Whatever, he wanted to keep his family together. I give him credit on that. But, killing the lover doesn't keep your family together. Just saying. Public prosecutor interjects. When did you first think of getting the revolver on that day? Accused. While driving to the ship after leaving my wife at the cinema, among the other thoughts that struck me on the way, I said, just one of those thoughts was that I might as well draw a revolver as I was going to the ship, because every time he went to the ship, he did not draw a revolver. So why this one time did the thought pop into his mind, he should get a gun? Oh my goodness. This was for the purpose of putting an end to my life. Okay. Was it for self-protection? Was it an end to your life? Or was it to kill the guy? One of three choices. I'm going to say two of them don't make sense. I had made no particular decision as to when I would do this. Okay. So now he says he's getting the gun and he's going, should I do this? Should I do that? Oh, I don't know, but I should at least get a gun. I'm messed up in the head, but I should at least get a gun. Okay. So now, see, I'm a Trevetti. Again, I don't remember who this guy is, which one of the people, I think it's the prosecutor, bears down on him, asking again why he took the gun up to the flat if, as he keeps claiming, it was not his intention to shoot Ahuja. The accused holds his ground, saying that, quote, the locking arrangements of the car which I was driving that day were faulty. Okay, I don't even get that. Okay, let's move on because I don't even get that. So he asked him again, point blank, did you go to Prem Ahuja's flat with the intention of killing him? Okay, so now he says this in a tone that never falters. Nanavati denies this, saying that, as he told the court, he was skilled, quote, in shooting at moving targets and would have riddled him with bullets at the very start if he had gone there with the intent to kill. He asserts that the, quote, the shots went off accidentally in the scuffle that followed as Ahuja tried to get a hold of the revolver. Okay. The accused recounts the defense's meticulously crafted story. Now, this is the author, but meticulously crafted story. I believe that the defense did make up the story for him. This is what defense attorneys do. This is what bugs me. It's like, if you're going to defend your client, he should make up his own damn story. But if you're going to make up the story for him, basically, I think that is fraudulent. It should not be allowed. But anyway, the defense's meticulous crafted story. Now, a man who remained honorable, even in the face of shattering betrayal. What Nanavati says, in effect, is, I was shocked and stunned and angry when my wife confessed her infidelity. It was the end of my world, so I saw no other recourse than ending my own life. He recounts what we've already heard about requisitioning the revolver and his sudden, overwhelming desire to see Ahuja face to face. So he got the gun to shoot himself, but then he thought, I got to talk to this dude and ask him what he means to do with my wife and children. He did not think there were any circumstances which would justify seduction. So he is a perfect man, a perfect husband. How could his wife do this? But I felt that if my wife wanted to leave me and go away with him, I would give him the opportunity to act in an honorable manner, and that I would let her go and shoot myself. Okay. Do I believe this for a minute? I do not. This is this nonsense. Okay, Nanavati then narrates how he entered the bedroom. Now, here's where things get interesting again. So he goes into the house, goes past the servant, the knocker, and he goes past that servant, and he's like, brushes past him. He's got this gun in an envelope that's hidden. The gun is hidden, all right? He goes into the room where the bedroom dressing table, the whole bedroom area. He shuts the door behind him. What is the problem with the door being shut behind him? What is your thought on that? I think this is, to me, the most interesting part. It's a bad novella. It is. It's something else. That's why it's got 3 movies and, a YouTube series. I mean, in the bedroom where the affair would have been happening, so his emotions are more charged. No, my thing is about the closed door. What, the wife did not kill? Oh no! What? Okay, wait a minute. The wife. Oh, sorry. I've got to go up to Michaela. The wife did not commit a crime. The crime, we're talking about the law here, not emotions, not personal opinions, not religious things. The law says she can have sex with whomever she wants to. Now, is it morally correct? I'm not going to say it is, but I'm just saying it's not against the law. If it was against the law, then he could just take her to court and have her put away. He doesn't want the victim to get away. Thank you. Prevent witnesses. That's the one. Prevent witnesses. That's what I'm going to point out next. Okay, because this becomes an important part of the trial. And oftentimes we see this in trials and we just assume things when we are true when it's not true, because the only people that know if it's true is the perpetrator and the victim is dead. So whatever the perpetrator says, we're supposed to believe. So let's hear what happened. He narrates how he entered Ahuja's bedroom and seen him standing in front of the dressing table mirror with only a towel around his torso. He says, I shouted, "You are a filthy swine." Composing myself, then I asked him, after he calls him a filthy swine, I asked him, "Are you prepared to marry my wife and look after my children?" And Ahuja retorted, "Do I have to marry every woman I sleep with? Get out of here before I have you thrown out." This single sentence will elevate the Nanavati trial to salacious immortality. What's the problem with this whole thing right here? Now, Ahuja, after sleeping with this man's wife, tells him, "No, I'm not gonna take care of your wife and kid. Kids. I'm done with them. I'm not gonna marry every woman that I sleep with. So your wife is just a hoe. So hey, what's your problem with this?" Well, the man might have felt terrified. At this point, there's no supposedly. The claim is, mind you, at this point, there's no gun present, although I think that's a complete fat lie. Oh, he may have been. That's not the issue. That is the issue. It makes the victim look immoral. So this Prem now, along with sleeping with his wife, looks like a piece of crap. I mean, he's sleeping with his wife. He doesn't even care about her, really. He's just using her, right? But that's not the issue. Not okay, victim shaming, sure, but that's not the issue. And she is white and English, but that's not the issue. What's the major problem with this whole thing? What is it? Think again. Oh, jury, I drop people off a better bus stop than most. It has nothing to do with victimizing. What is the big problem? If the door is shut. Thank you. He's the only one there to tell it. Nobody else knows that this conversation ever happened or that it even did happen. So the claim is from Kevas that I went in there, didn't show a gun, told, what do you plan to do with my wife and children? And Prem is a big scoundrel and says, just because I slept with her doesn't mean I'm going to take care of her. This is something that the killer says because the victim can't say whether it ever happened. I've seen this in so many cases. The killer will say, well, I just went there to work on her house, and I came in and she disrespected me and she slapped me in the face, and then that's why I killed her. I've heard guys say, oh, I went there to help my neighbor out and he made a pass at me and I'm not gay, so I killed him. Of course, it's one, assuming saying that your neighbor is gay, and two, that he made a pass at you. And neither one of them could be true. I know a case like that, and I'm like, it's okay to be gay. It's okay to even make a pass. But as far as I know, the guy was heterosexual and had no interest in this dude. But once he said that gave him some kind of motive that he was the victim. And then the family's like, what? He's gay? He made pass at this dude? And they're believing this killer. And the woman who supposedly slapped him, and that's why he did it. They're believing the killer. The killer is making up a story because he's lying to give himself a reason to do what he did. So now Prem is coming out of the show. Suddenly he's confronted with his wife's husband his lover's husband. And he's like, holy crap. And like, do you really think he'd be that rude to him? Probably not. But that's what Kevas Nanavati says, because it's giving him an excuse to paint this guy as a sleazebag, which people are already going, okay, you're sleeping with his wife, so you're kind of already a sleazebag, but let's double up on that. Let's make you a super sleazebag. So, all right, so this is what he says happened. Next, the accused describes his next moves. I put the envelope, because he got the envelope and put it in the gun and put it in an envelope, because he entered the house. The gun was not noticed by the servant. So he goes up to the room and claims, this is the claim, because the servant did not see the gun apparently. So I believe that he went into the house with the gun hidden. Once he got up into the room, was the gun hidden or wasn't it? We don't know, because again, the killer is the only one telling the story. The accused described his next moves. I put the envelope containing the revolver on the cabinet and said, by God, I'm going to thrash you for this. I have my hands up ready to fight him. Put his gun away. And he's just going to punch the dude out. But Ahuja made a move towards the packet. When I saw him doing this, I grabbed it myself, preventing him from getting it. I then whipped out the revolver and warned him, get back. He was very close to me and suddenly gripped my hand and tried to twist it and take the revolver. It says here, the courtroom is gripped as tightly. It listens, mouth agape, like villagers to a Ramayan Katha, like children to a bedtime story of the big bad wolf. Clerks drop their bland expressions to hear it all up close and personal. Every detail tops okay, everybody's very excited. All right, so then what happens? He says, I banged him towards the door of the bathroom, but he did not let go of his grip and tried to hit me with his knee in the groin. I managed to push him into the bathroom. All the while I was trying desperately to free my hand that held the gun by jerking it. He had a very strong grip and did not let go. During the struggle, I think about 2 shots went off. One went off first, and within a few seconds, the second shot. At the first shot, Ahuja just kept hanging onto my hand, but suddenly he let go and slumped down. I immediately left the bathroom and walked out to report to the police. Now, mind you, there's 3 shots, one directly in the chest, and other 2 that, God knows, what, there's a whole bunch of stuff on that. But after he shoots him 3 times, and he slumps down, then he says, I immediately left the bathroom and walked out to report to the police. Mind you, Ahuja's sister was in the house. The servants were in the house. There were a bunch of them. He goes out to report to the police. He doesn't. Tell me what he doesn't. Tell me what's wrong with this whole picture. Okay. How did Prem know what was in the envelope? That's a good question. That's a good question. That's absurd. The evidence doesn't match his fantasy. The servant was outside the room. He heard pum, pum, pum. He heard bang, 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 which is also important. He heard 3 shots very close together, like somebody went bang, 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 as opposed to we're having a shot bang, bang, bang. That's not what the servant heard. Oh, no ambulance. So you got a guy who just shoots this man. By the way, he knew this man. He wasn't a total stranger. This was actually originally a friend. So he shoots this guy 3 times. The guy gets shot 3 times. He is not a doctor. He doesn't know what situation the guy's in. He doesn't check on him. He doesn't call for an ambulance. He doesn't seem shocked, like, oh my God, he's been shot, like an accident, you know. It doesn't run out and say to the sister, oh my God, you know, he grabbed my gun. Oh, call 911, even though 911 in India just get there kind of slowly. But anyway, no CPR, nothing. So he just walks out and says, I'm going to the police. Oops. This is what happens with bindis when you're sweating and you run your hand over your head. Well, that's not right. Hold on. I like my bindi. I'm going to put it back. Oh, God, I'm like sweating like a dog. Okay, I'm trying here now. All right. How about this? It's hard to see. Okay, close enough. In case you're wondering whether that is just not done right, I'm going to move that over. In case you're wondering what a bindi is, It has a lot of religious significance, but also it's just a to many people it's a simply a nice matches your clothing. So it's whew, am I hot? But yeah, it's part of your fashion. So along with there's very specific bindis that are meant for more pointed things, but a lot of times it's fashion. So she's all in her outfit. I am. I miss being in India. I truly do. I mean, I look at the scene behind me and I think to myself, I should be there. I mean, I feel like I matched the scenery behind me. Oh, so like it. I think I'll take a picture. I'm going to do a screenshot. No, that didn't work. How about this? I'm taking screenshots because I just like it. Anyway, let's see. I think the thing about him showing up in the bedroom uninvited too is crossing a boundary. He could have left a letter with his staff or his work. Oh, absolutely. There were lots of things he could have done rather than go into the house without permission, go to his bedroom without permission, close the door behind him, and the guy's in a towel. So this is a problem. All right. So let's see what else he has to say. Okay. So now he shot the dude and he walks out and goes to the police. And this is what the prosecutor said. Not to be taken in by this story, he says, so you acted like a man who came to kill, and having killed, you left. Can you say it more clear than that? Now, one of the issues with was the issue of the towel. Somebody tell me what the towel issue is. Let me show you a picture again from the fictional story, mind you. But this is how he supposedly was found. According to the sister, the servants, they all found him like this. He was moved to a bed, but he was found with his towel around his waist. What is your problem with this picture? With this? What's your thoughts on that? That would be it. No struggle, says Lady Jane, and that's a problem. So this guy's having a struggle where he's grabbing for things, he's fighting with the guy, and his towel stays on his body. Now, mind you, I'm going to say this, because this is only fair, that many times when you have like a suicide or something, or an autoerotic death, you have people, the family will like, let's say you went in there and the dude's towel is off. And they're like, oh my God. Let's put his towel back on first, because we don't want people to see him like this. This happens in autoerotic deaths quite often, that people will take away the pornography they were looking at. They'll redress them. They'll do these kind of things. The families sometimes, when they see a person who committed suicide, will remove the weapon so it looks like a murder. So therefore, either they don't have to admit to suicide, or they can still collect on the insurance policy. But one of the things I found interesting was not one person said, oh yeah, his towel was off, but we couldn't leave him like that. Nobody said that. So I believe his towel was on him, and it was unlikely that there was a struggle. So yeah, so not very convincing. Let's see. So it's interesting, that Kevas did actually go on the stand and lie like a dog, in my opinion, which makes me question what kind of guy is it. He went there and very calmly told the story, which I don't believe is true at all. So when I go back and look, I'm like, what is Sylvia dealing with? Maybe she was dealing with that man that we don't know anything about. Good looking, all that stuff doesn't mean that he might have been a good leader. He might have been good in his profession. Doesn't mean he was great as a husband. I don't know. But the jury came back and found him not guilty. Now, one more thing here. The ballistics expert. There was they had this ballistics thing where this defense ballistics guy was questionable, but he said he had accepted every theory of the defense by agreeing that there could be various possibilities. Reminds those 9 deciding men that by the rules of our criminal justice system, the benefit of the doubt must always go to the accused, which is true if there's enough. However, Even though his own witness, Dr. Balaga, had also couched his struggle hypothesis in the language of what is possible, not what is probable, he urges the jury to accept it as gospel truth. So the defense attorney was saying, okay, it's not probable at all. It's not probable that he got the gun without an intention. It's not probable that he actually said these things to Prem and asked him this question about, are you going to take care of my wife? It's not probable. It's not probable that Prem knew that the envelope had a gun in it. It's not probable that he grabbed the envelope and they struggled over the gun without the towel dropping. It's not probable that the 3 shots were boom, 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 had anything to do with the struggle. None of that's probable, but it's possible. And this is what defense attorneys often say. This is what we hear with the Karen Reed case. Nothing that the defense came up with in the Karen Reed case was probable at all. It was not probable that John O'Keefe went into the house because there was no evidence he ever did. There wasn't one witness. His phone didn't show him going into the house. Nothing showed him going into the house. There was nothing. All the evidence pointed to that he got hit by the car, and that was the end of things. All the physical evidence was there. But he made up stories. The defense made up stories. It's not probable, but it's possible that he went to the house and somebody beat him up, even though there's no proof of that. It's possible he went to the house and a dog attacked him. Well, there's no proof of that. This was all, and it's possible that, okay, there was evidence there at the scene, but it's possible that somebody planted that evidence, the taillight evidence, they threw it on him. It's possible. No, yeah, anything is possible. It's just not probable. And when you get to the point where the totality of the evidence says none of anything is, but this is probable, that's when you say the guy's guilty. Just because an alien is possible doesn't mean you find the guy not guilty, because an alien could have come and done all of these things. This is the point of having logic. This is the point of having this whole thing where you actually have a jury or a system that comes up with proper things. I think I said this the other day. Let me see if I can find it again, because I just thought it was brilliant. And I said it during my hangout, but I want to reread it because it's just too good. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, it's way back probably. Hold on a second. It was so good. Where did I do this? It was. Hold on. I'm going to try to find this because I just think it's. I want to make sure I include this before I just ignore saying this again, because it's just too good. It was the. Hold on a second. All right. Come on. Where are you? Where did you go? Oh, come on. Can't believe it. Yeah, it is missing. Let's see if I moved it over to. I might have moved it because I moved it over here, but it was just the two paragraphs, which I just absolutely loved, as to why they went to the abolition of the jury trial. Let's see if I can find it here. Go away. Okay, here, I found it. Okay. I moved it from the hangout to here. Okay. The Nanavati case reignited the debate surrounding the merits and drawbacks of the jury system in India. Proponents of the jury system argued that they embodied the principles of participatory justice, allowing ordinary citizens to play a direct role in the administration of justice. What's interesting about that is in Indian history, a group. Let me see if I can remember the name of it. And just pronounce this correctly, because somebody Indian is going to get me for this one. Panchayat. Panchayat is like where people who control the town, mostly men, they can gather and make decisions. And in a justice system, in a small place, you can gather under this lovely tree, and you can decide if the person is guilty or innocent. Now, if that's totally participatory justice, that is 100% a civilian jury. Is that what we want to? Is that what we want to go to? Is that okay with us? So in America, there used to be people who, well, what happened to those people in certain areas of the country where they were hung up in a tree because a group of people who controlled the town decided that those people were guilty and needed to be hung up in a tree. We had that. We stopped that. And in India, the concern is let's not have the small group of local population decide if somebody's guilty or innocent. We see this in other countries where a woman is determined because she committed, quote, adultery, she should be then stoned to death. Is this okay? This is where you want to go with participatory justice of the citizens. Okay, but allows an ordinary citizen to play a direct role in the administration of justice. Yeah. Juries, they contended, brought a diverse range of perspectives and experiences to the courtroom. What kind of perspectives and experiences? Again, emotional experiences, cultural experiences, religious experiences. What do we bring into the courtroom? Ensuring that the victims' verdicts were grounded in the collective wisdom of the community. Well, the collective wisdom decided they think a woman should be stoned to death. Why shouldn't she be? And America back in 1910, 1920, there were people that were lynched, black citizens. Well, they weren't even considered citizens so much. But anyway, Black Americans were lynched in trees because somebody decided that was collective wisdom. Now, critics, on the other hand, questioned the ability of ordinary citizens to navigate complex legal principles and evaluate objectively the evidence. Well, the evidence in this case was pretty clear. It's 100% clear. The guy got a gun, premeditatively determined to go to his wife's lover's home. He confronted him. He shot him to death. He turned himself in. What didn't you get? The evidence says it was a premeditated homicide. And he was found not guilty because what? You thought it was okay that he killed the lover. Basically, that was it. The collective wisdom was, hey, the woman hurt, she cheated on him. It knifed him in the heart. Therefore, he went and killed her lover. And that's acceptable. Well, that's not the law of India as far as I know it. So this is acceptable culturally, especially because at that point in time, the Parsis pushed that greatly. So they had this wonderful commander, this good man, and all this stuff. And, it was Lord Ram and his wife was Sita, and the evil guy came in, and that's why he had to be killed. And so it was all acceptable. Well, the sister of the victim didn't think so. She was pretty upset about this, that they would her brother was killed in cold blood. Hey, maybe he was the most moral guy in the world, but he was killed in cold blood. And everybody's like cheering outside. Yeah, isn't it wonderful that, the killer got off? So the critics said that they questioned the ability of ordinary citizens to navigate complex legal principles and objectively evaluate evidence. I don't even think the legal principles are most of the issue. I think it's they can't evaluate the evidence and they're too emotional and have personal, they're subjective when they look at things. And that, I think, is a big problem. They argued that juries could be swayed by emotional appeals, prejudices, or public sentiment. They had the media was just going out. The blitz media was just going out there. They did blitz. They blitzed them, and then the whole community came out that were Parsis, and they pushed it. And so yes, I think 8 out of 9 of those people fell for that stuff, except for the guy that was actually, wasn't any of that community at all, and said, "Wait, look at the evidence." They argued juries could be swayed by emotional appeals, prejudices, or public sentiment, potentially compromising the fairness and impartiality of the jury process. And therefore, the Nanavati case proved to be the turning point in the debate over jury trials in India. The High Court's decision to overturn the jury's verdict. So the guy, the judge is like, this is perverse. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. He overturned the verdict. And the High Court had then 2 judges review it, and they found him guilty. So they found him guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison. But the interesting thing about this whole end of the story is that he got out in 3 years because he had connections to the political people. He got out in 3 years, His wife stayed with him. They moved to Canada, raised their children, had an Irish setter. He finally died, and she's still alive. And that's that. And here she is. There she is now. That's Sylvia in the middle with her daughter-in-law and her granddaughter, and it's all good, and that's the way it ended up. So he ended up with only 3 years in the long run. And she stayed with him, maybe because she felt guilty, maybe because he had control of her, maybe because she didn't want to take away the father of her children. Maybe she didn't want to have to survive on her own. I don't know what Sylvia's reasons were. I don't know if she was happily married after that or unhappily married. There's no way to know. But what I do know, what I do 100% believe, is that this case was so obvious. It was one of the most, like OJ and Casey Anthony. Karen Reed is a little trickier. I will grant you that. It's trickier because it's not as obvious. The totality of evidence still says to me, Karen Reed is guilty, but not as obvious as OJ Simpson, Casey Anthony. That's just like, yeah, come on now. What the heck? But one was political. The OJ Simpson case was a political, cultural issue. And the Casey Anthony case, the jury, I think, fell for Jose Baez's nonsense and felt sorry for a woman who might have been abused. Yeah. But I think that was more of an emotional thing. And in this case, I think it was a mix of culture and emotion and politics. I think it was like all together. And so I see why this case was the one that is standing out for why jury systems needed to be abolished. And they were in India. They don't have jury systems anymore. They have a bench system. And personally, I'm in their corner. I would like to see the U.S. go to a bench system too, because this is the kind of stuff I see happening. And you could say, now the question comes down to, how often does this happen? And I guess the idea a lot of people say is, well, you have 100 cases and they get 99 of them right. And this is the one you're talking about. It's the one they screwed up. So it works. No, 99% of the cases are such slam dunks that there's never a question. They're little loser dudes who committed some crappy crime. And the prosecutor goes rolling in there and goes, and the jury's like, yeah, we know he did it. And they convict him. Sometimes they convict a guy who didn't do it because he looks like a scumbag anyway. I have some cases which I truly believe that is true, that they didn't like the victim, and I mean didn't like the person who was the defendant, and they convicted him, and nobody complains. There's a number of cases that I believe that's true, and people know that I'm anti the Innocence Project because I think most of the time they're lying about the person being innocent, and they get a lot of guilty people out of jail. And people say, well, do you ever believe somebody's not guilty? And the answer to that is yes. One of the cases is Michael Skakel and the Martha Moxley case. I forgot about that one when people ask me which one. I believe Michael Skakel didn't commit the crime. I believe it was the little teacher guy that was staying there who got, everything matched him. And that dude's a psychopath. And he was actually Littleton. He actually was found crawling in a woman's window to try to assault her. And so, this guy showed that he was a sexual predator and a psychopath. And he was there that night and everything pointed to him. But because whatever reasons, certain people like Mark Furman wanted to make money. They wanted to point at Michael Skakel because he was not, how can you say it? He was the kind of guy he kind of didn't want to like. And he said stuff that he shouldn't have said. And so people turned really quickly. Oh, he's a Kennedy. We hate him. And so Michael Skakel got convicted without any evidence that made any damn sense. And so I stood up and said, hey, I don't think Michael Skakel did it. Didn't make people happy. So for the one time I said, I think this guy actually is innocent. You don't have to like him or not, but I think he's innocent, didn't commit this crime. Oh my God, I got stomped on. But if I say somebody else isn't innocent, then people get really mad at me. So that's the way it works sometimes. So there's a lot. So generally speaking, juries can find people guilty because it's easy to find them guilty because obviously they're guilty. It's so obvious. Then you got the unlikable ones that they don't mind finding guilty. So then you get the other cases where justice isn't done. Either the wrong person is convicted or the right person is innocent. And so, you know, this guy had this guy showed that he was a sexual predator and a psychopath, and he was there that night and everything pointed to him. But because he whatever reasons, certain people like Mark Furman wanted to make money. They believe it was the defendant. And because he It's simply the fact the killer gets away with it. And that's not okay. So, yeah, I will continue to have problems with the civilian jury system because I think it's illogical. And maybe once upon somebody points out, no, our Constitution, no, it was an amendment. At a certain point, they decided this will be a good idea. And things change over time. At a certain point, women didn't vote, and then there was an amendment to have them vote. Well, there was an amendment to have civilian jury system. And you can take away amendments too. You can say, hey, now that it's 2023, maybe we're realizing this sucks. It doesn't work because the jury, there's too much media involvement, there's too much internet involvement, there's too many crazy people out there. There's not enough, that people aren't paying attention to the evidence. It's too complicated legally, it's too complicated forensically, and you get a million reasons, in my opinion, why to get rid of the civilian jury system. And to see that India got rid of it, I'm with you, India. Okay, let me check some of your comments. End of my soapbox. That is absolutely not true. That is not true. Nobody tampered with any evidence, so that is nonsense. See, this is why I wouldn't want you on a jury. I'm sorry to say that I wouldn't want you on a jury. There was zero evidence of tampering. Every single piece of evidence pointed to that fact that she was the only one involved in his death. There was no conspiracy. There was no tampering of evidence, no planting of evidence. What was there? Some mishandling of evidence? Sure. Because if you want to say not guilty every time an officer didn't do the perfect thing, or there was a mistake made, it's the totality of the evidence, not because somebody made a mistake. In the middle of a freaking snowstorm, somebody went and said, we don't have anything to collect the blood evidence with, and we want to grab it quick. In the middle of a blizzard, they went and got some clean cups and collected some blood evidence, which didn't even affect the issue of this crime. It wasn't even an issue. So when you're making a big deal out of nothing, I'm not saying that it was the best thing done, or you got the one cop who had said some, unfortunately, nasty things about Karen Reed, which I think he was pissed and believed them. I don't think it was appropriate, but they had nothing to do with the actual evidence of the crime. So this is the problem. You are emotional and you're buying into conspiracy theories that don't exist because you bought the defense's nonsense. So I have to say that because I think I've seen that over and over again. And the Karen Reed case is one of those cases where a number of us professionals have spoken out strongly that we see the evidence is obviously overwhelming that she was involved in the death of John O'Keefe. Overwhelming. And we have been attacked ruthlessly by the Free Karen Reed people. So there you go. My fucking blood pressure. Hey, I have also learned that I can be very expressive without having a heart attack. Yes, that is true. This is absolutely true, but it doesn't matter because the whole point was a Kennedy did it. You see, this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff that is well, this is reasonable. You wouldn't want me on a jury because my emotions would probably come in. Well, and good for you. And you shouldn't be on a jury if your emotions are going to affect what you're looking at. You can do other great jobs where emotions are useful. They're just not useful on a jury. And your personal, I've had cases where, man, I can't stand that, Dan. I can't stand somebody. I dislike them intensely, but I also didn't think they did it. I'm like, well, I think I talked about that with the Lion Sisters case. Lion Sisters, the guy that they got to confess to doing it. I mean, that guy's a scumbag and a half. But I just don't see that there was enough evidence to actually say that he did it. He could have done it, but I just don't see the evidence. And I'm concerned that although he's a creep in many other ways, and I really don't care if he spends the rest of his life in prison, personally, the killer could be still out there. The killer could never have actually been found because emotions I think took over in a lot in that case. I think what I see happen with the detective, I see a lot of confirmation bias. It's like, we want to believe it. This is what happened, so we're going to believe this is what happened. And I find that unfortunate, because that's damaging, in my opinion, to a proper prosecution. Even if you don't like the guy, I mean, and he's a creepy dude. Let's see. So if 99% is a slam dunk, professional juries probably aren't needed in 99% of the cases. So maybe the judge could decide whether a civilian or professional jury is needed. Thomas, this gets tricky. I think in a lot of, there is an interesting, who had that? I think it was the Indian system, but they have a whole bunch of people, like hundreds of people who are qualified to do trials. And so they just move them in and out of these trials. And it's their job. It's like, instead of being a criminal profiler and a YouTuber, I could be a professional juror, and I would be, every single day, I'd be doing one trial or the other. And because you don't have to play all the games that defense attorneys have to play to civilian juries, most of the cases will be shorter. And so you might get in there and you're just there for a day going, okay, guilty, not guilty, whatever. And then you might get to the trickier ones. Or you could just say, we're only going to use this. We'll do all the other ones with civilian juries, but when it comes down to homicide cases, serial rape cases, all these violent cases, we're going to use professional juries. I mean, it's tricky to figure out how it worked, but obviously India went that direction. So I'm not a legal person. So I'm not real good with organizational crap. So I'm not the person to figure it all out, how to put it all together. I don't even pretend to be that. But I just think the civilian jury system drives me crazy, because it's just simply illogical. And I don't like things that are radically illogical. And I can't see that, as every prosecutor says on a slightly more difficult case, it's just a crapshoot. Whether the jury will find him guilty or not guilty. It should never be a crapshoot. In other words, it should be pretty much obvious which way it will go, barring some bizarre event. But they're actually saying it's a crapshoot. In other words, we have no idea. They'll go 50%, one way or the other, regardless of what the evidence is. That's not okay. Justice shouldn't be a crapshoot. That can be my, okay, 12 people on a bus stop. Justice shouldn't be a crapshoot. It shouldn't. And the interesting part of it is, a lot of people aren't upset about the civilian jury system, because if they were ever committed a crime, they would love a jury. The defense loves civilian jury system. The last thing a defense wants is a bench system with judges on it, or a professional jury. They love civilian jury systems because the chances of the client getting off is much, much higher than if you have professionals. So, hey, if I were going to off somebody, I want myself a civilian jury. You betcha. And I'm going to dress real pretty. I'm going to look all sad and elderly. and they're going to feel sorry for me. And I'm going to make sure that the defense comes up with an incredible story. And they're going to be confused. And then they're going to get me off. So, yeah, if I get arrested, I'm going for the civilian jury system. You betcha. Oh, Lord. The Sarah Boone case, no one wants to represent her because they just want to stuff her boyfriend in a suitcase, and she killed him. I mean, come on now. If you can't figure that out, again, if a civilian jury system falls for oh my God, he wanted to get into the suitcase. She zipped him up and she didn't realize that he wanted to get out of the suitcase. And she's just stupid. And therefore, I mean, and she didn't hear him and like, oh, she didn't hear that. So, and she was, probably under the influence. So she didn't know what was going on. She wasn't clear about that. And then by the time she found out, he was dead. So I think we shouldn't give her murder. I can see a civilian jury doing that, but she's such an unpleasant human being. Every single defense attorney can't stand her. So, but she will represent herself, and then she will claim she was poorly represented, and she'll get an appeal. Loretta says, Pat, you would never get caught if you knock someone off, so no need to worry. This is true. Absolutely true. My daughter and I, we constantly make this joke about my son-in-law. We both look at him and go, dude, if you piss either one of us off, or both of us together, she and my daughter's a detective, and I'm a criminal profiler. I'm pretty sure we know how to get rid of you without it coming back on us. So just keep that in mind. Although, it's funny. There is a truth to that. Even people think they can get away with it when it comes down to that moment. So let's say my daughter and I off my son-in-law, which we're not going to do. So do not put this TikTok or something. But let's say we decided to, and somehow in the heat of whatever, he got a meat cleaver in his head. Okay, so now we're a detective and a profiler, but we have to deal with, now it has happened. Now, if it happened without premeditation and planning, you're in more trouble. This is where people get in trouble, when it's not less a crime of passion, but hey, you shouldn't have done what you did. And therefore, what are you going to do? Because now there's a body on your floor, blood pouring out everywhere, and a cleaver in the middle of his freaking head. What do you do? So it's not that easy to clean up a crime scene and to try to remove the body or do whatever you need to do to not have the focus back on you. Now, if it's premeditated, it's much easier because therefore you make sure that you don't hit him with a cleaver in the middle of your living room. That really is difficult to clean up. So you don't do that. There are ways to take care of a person, and I'm not going to give you those ideas because then you'll say, I told you how to kill people. But there are smart ways to get rid of somebody where it's simpler and easier to not have a clue who did it. So if you're going to commit a crime, make sure it's not overly premeditated. No, it's okay to be premeditated. I'm sorry, be premeditated. Don't do things in a moment of anger, because that's where you run into trouble. At least buy the tarp and cleaning supplies months in advance. That is true, because there's nothing worse than, okay, so the person, last time the person was seen was at 6 p.m. when he was seen driving into your house. And then from that moment on, he was never seen again. But at 7 p.m., you went to CVS and bought bleach. You went to Home Depot and bought a tarp. You went online and said, how do I get rid of a body? This is where you screw up really badly. Oh my God. She was talking to him while he was in the suitcase. That kid, oh my God. If she doesn't go down, it's really, really sad. Oh, good old Dexter. Yeah, I'm not a Dexter fan, but hey, go for it. Let's see. Thomas, are they lawyers or from the legal profession? Okay. When you come down to professional jurors, I don't believe they should be just lawyers. Now, a lot of places have bench trials with judges. My problem with that, I'm happy where they have a five judge bench trial. That's better than having a one judge bench trial, which I don't like, because one guy is, but I believe in crime scene analysis. I don't think that lawyers necessarily have crime scene analysis training. I want people to understand criminal profiling, crime scene analysis, behavioral analysis, because that to me is where you can determine what happened at the scene, not the all the little legal details, because I'm not a lawyer, and quite frankly, I don't feel like being one, because I find it torturous. But when I look at this case, I don't care what all the legal bull crap is, quite frankly. What I care about is what I see from the evidence, the behavioral evidence, the statement evidence, the physical evidence. Every single thing points to that guy. It was a premeditated homicide by Kevas, Nanavati. That's the kind of person I want on the jury. Professional jurors who have been trained. Now, if you want to have them be lawyers and be trained as criminal profilers, a duo, that would be great. I think that probably is unlikely, because with the amount of trials out there, going through the whole, becoming a lawyer is just too many damn hours. You know what I mean? So I would like to have a professional jury what I taught when I initiated and developed the first criminal profiling certificate program in the country for Excelsior College. It was 5 courses, 15 weeks long a piece, and I just packed them with great stuff. It was forensic pathology, it was criminal profiling, it was crime scene analysis, it was psychopathology, and serial crimes. Those 3. I mean 5. Don't trust a woman who can't count. Five. Don't trust me. 5 courses. I worked so hard to prepare. And when people took those courses, I put in everything I thought the best they could learn. So if they were going to be they were a detective, and so I had a lot of detectives taking the course because it was online. The detectives were great, and they were already working sort of in the field, but then they were able to understand all these different aspects of it and do a better job. And that's what I'm hoping to do with my online, if I ever get around to it, profiling courses online, which will be open to the public and free and available for everybody. It's just I want people to go through those different things and be able, especially detectives or people going to criminal justice, so they can understand how to analyze things. And therefore they don't have to go through, you don't need a doctorate in psychology. You don't, because if you're talking about psychopaths, or most of the people who kill people, you just need to know that they're psychopaths and how they behave. You don't need 6 years worth of work on that. You don't need to know how to, for forensic pathology, you need to understand the causes of death, the manners of death, and that kind of stuff. What you don't need to learn is how to cut up bodies. I mean, you're not a pathologist. You don't need to be in the lab. Same thing. So sometimes there's these different areas which you could spend 6 years a piece in each one of these areas if you were just going to be that. But if you just want to understand the most important things of each one of those areas, that would be what I think a professional juror should have. Is it perfect? No. But is it a lot better than 12 people on a bus stop? Hell yeah. Okay, let's see. Retired social workers know how to get rid of bodies pretty good too. There's some really nice places in rural states. Actually, that's not exactly just a joke. One of the advantages of being in rough terrain, rural terrain, is that it's way easier to get rid of bodies. So yeah, that is true. Pigs. Well, my pig, I had a pig for 20 years, and only one of my renters disappeared. That was in my house. I did have a renter who deserved to be eaten by a pig, but that's another story. My pig died for 20 years, and I did feed her well, so I don't know that she ever ate any humans. But I get your point. The pigs are useful. Oh, Lord. Don't get caught shopping on a Walmart shopping aisle. Yeah, it's funny that some of the people who commit these crimes really, they show up in public buying everything they need to get rid of a body. It's craziness. But they're not used to getting rid of bodies. That's the thing. It's not normal for them. And when you do something that's completely not out of character, but just out of your normal, what you normally would do, because it's that unusual moment, that's when you screw up. Even serial killers. I've always said that when you catch serial killers, is the very beginning and the very end. The very beginning, they don't know what the hell they're doing. They're like, oh my God, it would be really cool to grab that girl and rape and murder her. Woo-hoo. And then they do it, and they're like, oh God, now what do I do? How do I, well, man, I didn't realize I was going to get blood on my clothing. What about the DNA? Did I leave DNA? They don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's easiest to catch them in the beginning. Then after a period of time, they start realizing, okay, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. This is what I need to do. And so it's like a bell curve. So at the beginning, they can be caught, and then they get really pretty good at what they do. Then later on, they get sloppy because they just get arrogant. And you're like, okay, I've done this a million times. And that's when you can catch them, is also at the end when they're just getting stupid. Because they're just, they're getting old and they're just getting lazy and careless. And yeah, so it's like a bell curve. Let's say, okay, this is something, okay, you point that out. Even professional juries would I would say would have some biases and triggers, of course. But there again, this is the perfect thing that people keep trying to do. Okay, you want to get rid of the civilian jury system. Is the professional jury system going to be perfect? No, it's not. It's never going to be perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect. How old are you people? Do you know that nothing is perfect? Raising kids isn't perfect. Getting married, marriage relationships aren't perfect. Jobs aren't perfect. There's nothing perfect out there. But we can aim for better. Just because something isn't perfect doesn't mean you shouldn't do better. Okay, well, civilian jury system sucks because nobody knows what they're doing, and they're just guessing, and they're emotional, and they're prejudiced, but a professional jury system could have a few issues too. Yeah, let's work to make sure they have the lesser amount of that. I consider myself, I would be a good professional juror. Now, do I have any biases? I'm a human. So could I have some? Sure. But the more cases you work, the less biases you have. I will say this because I've worked so many of them. And because you've seen so much, it becomes that's why people say, well, Pat, I don't know how come you're out there, you're laughing sometimes. Yeah, I am. Because I've worked so many of these cases, I can find humor in things that you do not find humor in, but I can find humor in it. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't, if I talk to a victim of a crime, that I might not feel sadness for them. If I talk to a family, doesn't mean it doesn't bring tears to my eyes. I've once in a while, it gets to me. But in general, I can look at crime after crime after crime and eat pizza because I've done it enough where I can separate myself. So if I go to a trial, it's not, oh my God, I'm going to be on a jury trial. Oh my God, it's a big murder case. Ooh, it's Casey Anthony, and it's either the best thing that ever happened to me or the worst thing that ever happened to me. I'm either horrified or I'm excited because I've never done this and I'm going to be in like going on television. I mean, I've had people ask questions like this. Well, I saw this guy go on the Tonight Show. Famous actor. I'm not going to say which one because there's probably been more than one. And he was clearly drunk. What the hell? How could he go on the Tonight Show? Johnny Carson or what's his name? I forgot who came after Johnny. But how could he go on there in that condition? I can tell you exactly how that works. First time I did television. Oh my God. First time I did Montel Williams, for example. That wasn't my first. I did a bunch of other television. But when I did Montel Williams, I saw people in the green room who never been on television before, and they were like these. They had murdered children, and they were still, and they're going, "Oh my God, I'm going to be on television!" They were so excited. For me, I'd done television before, so I walked down. I talked to Montel. Now that was early on in my career, so I was still a little bit more. But then after a while, I mean, it was like sitting in my living room. I'm like, okay, hi, whatever, Actually, today with Zoom, it is sitting in your living room. But, I mean, I would go on shows and people go, oh, my God, Pat, you were on the Today Show. I'm like, yeah, and? Because it was nothing for me because I did it all the time. So a juror who goes on to the one trial of their lifetime, that has huge emotional impact on them and can also do terrible things to them if they have to see horrible things or all the I feel so sorry for jurors for what they go through. They might think it's exciting, but they may end up like devastated and horrified by what they had to go through. But for me, it will be, okay, I've been through this before. I'm going to do it again. This is my 27th trial. Okay, let's look at the evidence to see what there is. Am I going to get that emotional over the person is what race they are, what religion they are, whether they're male or female? No. Because I'm very objective because it's what I do all the time. Now, can I have this moment where I'm like, oh, Pat Brown, did you lose it? I guess it's possible. But in comparison to a civilian juror, no. I mean, they're here and I'm here. They're here as far as emotion goes, and they're way up here for emotions, and I'm way down here. They're way up for subjectivity. I'm down here. Their ability to understand evidence is here, and I'm up here. So generally speaking, would I be better in my opinion? Absolutely, 100%. And so would I think for other professional jurors, not just me, all of them who work on a regular basis. Would we be perfect? No, nobody's perfect. And then once we go to the perfect thing, we lose the ability to be rational, because that's the same thing with reasonable doubt. People think it's not reasonable doubt. They think it's a shadow of a doubt. It's not a shadow of a doubt. And 100 things point to this person, but one thing I don't understand. So therefore, let's find him not guilty. That's a misunderstanding of the whole system by people. And perfection is also misunderstanding. Perfection of the police, perfection of the prosecutor, perfection of anybody. It doesn't happen. That's why you can't throw the Karen Reed case out because they collected some stuff in red Solo cups. So what? It has nothing to do with a massive amount of evidence that points to her guilt. Was it the best thing? No. So what? So there was one creepy cop. And what's your point? I didn't know who Karen Reed was. I had no reason to like her or dislike her. I don't know what John O'Keefe is like. I don't have any reason to like or dislike him or anybody else. I'm just looking at the evidence. And so let's not worry about perfection, because it'll never happen. If the defendant was handsome Indian officer, could Pat be objective? Well, there you go. If you look like Shah Rukh Khan, I am a Shah Rukh Khan fan. You probably, 99% of you have no idea who I'm talking about. If you're Indian, you do. I am a Shah Rukh Khan fan. I gotta say, look, yeah, I've always been a fan of his, but I've been a fan of other actors as well, and I can be swayed by other actors other than him. But just because a guy shows up in court and looks good is, to me, not important, or that the person looks bad. Wow, that dude he's a creepy looking dude. Does that mean that he's guilty of the crime? No. So again, we have to be able to put that aside and say, looks good, but what does that mean? Yeah. We all have to just understand. Loretta is so correct. We're all just somewhat civilized monkeys. Nice you didn't have stage fright. I only had stage fright. I've never had stage fright for television. I've only had stage fright for dancing, doing Bollywood dancing. When I go out and dance, absolute panic. And as my choreographer said the first time I did that, she goes, "Oh, don't worry, Pat, no one will notice you." And I'm like, I'm the tall blonde in the middle. I think people are going to look at me, but I'm not good at, my memory has never been good. And it has nothing to do with I've got Alzheimer's or any such crap. I've never had good memory. So when it comes down to having everything in order, I'm like, oh, good God. So you have to memorize all those dance steps. And then you're going out in front of an audience. It's just there. And it can't screw up. Now, I was in a chorale recently, really fantastic. It was super fun. But the nice thing about that is I got the music in front of you. And then if you screw up, you just pretend to sing. And you've got 100 people around you all singing. So nobody notices that you're screwing up. But when you're dancing and everybody's going this direction and you're going that direction, you can't. And then you look. If you do that, then you completely freak, and then you don't know what the rest of the dance is. You are so freaking screwed. So that's stage fright for me. And the women were asking me, it's like, well, Pat, you do television all the time. Why do you have stage fright dancing? I'm like, it's a totally different thing. And so I've danced many times in public, Bollywood dances, for temples, for community things, for just all kinds of places. And every single time I've been a wreck before it happened. And luckily, for whatever reasons, sometimes I don't even know how I get through the dance. And I don't know how. I'm like, and when it's finished, I'm like, was it okay? I can't even, I'm like in this kind of paralyzed mind. And then I'll look at the video later and think, oh, okay, I look pretty decent. But stage fright beyond belief. Totally horrifying. But television never bothered me. I can't remember a time I was, television, I don't know. Didn't bother me at all. No. No, Thomas. No. Look, I've gained a lot of weight since COVID, and I'm still struggling to try to get rid of it. I keep going. I'm just one of these people who goes up and down, and then people go, "Oh, Pat, don't you know you could do this to lose weight?" I'm like, "Oh, shut the heck up. I know how to lose weight. It's just that it's torture for a person my age. No matter how much exercise you do, you have to eat like lettuce leaves or fast for days on end, like weeks, and it's really hard. And I'm refusing to take any of the drugs. I'm refusing to stab myself in the abdomen with the new crap that everybody's stabbing themselves in the abdomen with. But it seems to work. But I promised myself a long time ago that I would never touch any of that stuff, and I'm regretting every minute of saying that. So I'm a little porky right now, and I'm not happy with myself. And no, I did not want to dance in this condition. That's why I'm really happy when all you can see is. And even then, it's like, anyway. But no. So one day when I lose all the weight, I will dance for you again. I hope to dance again. I really love dancing, and I did it for 4 years straight in Minnesota. I danced for 4 years, and then I danced for a couple of years here in Maryland. I danced 4 years in Minnesota, 2 years in Maryland, and then the company moved farther away from my house, and I just didn't want to do the drive. So, but I absolutely love Bollywood dancing. It's my favorite. So, yeah. Anyway, so I think let me see if there's anything else I want to say about this crime. I've gone off on some tangent here. Yeah, I think that's it. But what a fascinating crime. That it just amazes me to think of where it ended up. That it ended up with that decision, which has not been made in America. And we probably will never go there. We're very, very stubborn about that. I think it was. Let me read. Did I not read that to you? Okay, wait a minute. What the British guy? Did I read you about the British guy? Maybe I already read that to you. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, the one that he said the British guy said it would have lynched him, but he came from a system where he really believed in objectivity, and because he wasn't connected as strongly with the community, he was interesting. He was actually British. Let's see how his wife was Vietnamese, which was kind of unusual in that location in Bombay, Bombay, and he was his wife. Wow, see what happens? I'm sweating so bad. His wife was Vietnamese, and it's like you're like an English dude with a Vietnamese wife, and you're living in Bombay. I'm not sure how all that worked, but he was so objective, and then just we say he wasn't caught up in anything, and so that's what did it. But I totally approve of the Indian system going to the concept of bench trials, and yet in the U.S. we're like obsessed with the fact it must be a civilian jury system, and anything else would be unconstitutional and horrifying, and the government would be 100% controlling us, and massive amount of innocent people go to prison. I think we could rethink that, and I said I'm in the minority on this, and I understand that, but this case just beautifully shows how a civilian jury system can be so incredibly off. Now, maybe there's some people who still think the jury was correct, that one guy was wrong, and that he shouldn't have been charged with a homicide, murder. Maybe they thought he didn't deserve that because she was cheating on him, and he was cheating on him with her, and he deserved it. Maybe they think he deserved it, but the law does not say just because somebody deserves to be murdered is acceptable that they're murdered. What I always joke about with my son, it's like, well, if you get that terminal disease, hey, if you get a terminal disease, I want you to add these two people to my list. If I get a terminal disease, who do you want on my list? What government agency, what people that pissed you off? Because I'm going down anyway. I can kill all these people and it won't matter because I'm going to die anyway. We can think people deserve something, but the whole point of the legal system is that we don't take matters into our own hands. We don't do that kind of thing. And he took matters into his own hands. It's not okay. It was never okay. And the Menendez brothers, it was never okay. And to say it's okay because you had some justification for wanting they deserved it because they were less than stellar human beings. Well, in that case, we just might as well throw the justice system out and let everybody decide whether that person deserves to be shot. Let me know if you want to be on my list. Oh my goodness. Loretta's probably correct. He might not. Oh, I doubt he would have been acquitted. Yes, I think he had just a stellar reputation, and the white. He was always in the white uniform. He looked good. The dude looked good. I mean, he was a very handsome, very attractive man. And every one of the movies that shows him, I mean, he's got an actor playing him, and the actor's attractive, and in that uniform that for women is so alluring. Something about a guy in a uniform. And oh man, dude looks good, but if he'd been a scruffy little hard day laborer, maybe he was a guy that, let's say it wasn't this guy. Maybe it was, like you say, one of the class that wouldn't do so well and wouldn't have the support. Let's say he was a person who cleaned, I don't know, just swept out restaurants. I mean, he worked at restaurants and he washed the floors and swept them. That's what his job was. He worked hard every day. And his wife cheats on him with the restaurant owner. And he shoots the restaurant owner, who was at a higher caste than him. Would he have been acquitted? I don't think so. I think he would have been. They were like, hey, you can't just shoot the restaurant owner just because your wife is your wife's a slut. Yeah, he would have gone down. So yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Some of the comments, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like the side conversations in the chat room are always cool. Anyway, I think that's it for today. I want to say to you, thank you for being here. Hope you learned something from this. Again, if you're still here and you haven't become a subscriber to the channel, please do that. Please do join Patreon if you'd like to be in the chat room with great people. And I forever will mostly I do occasionally a public live chat, a live show for public, but most of the time I do just Patreon chats. And I've never a lot of people told me I should just open it up to the public every time and should get rid of these patron only chats. And years later, I'm still satisfied that I do mostly patron only chats because it makes for a good community and it's pleasant to deal with. And it's not as overwhelming as when you go to open everything up to the public. But I occasionally have done that just because of a certain topic. And so if you came to one of my public lives, I'm thanking you for doing that. But if you'd like to be in the Patreon lives, please do click on the little thing down there and join Patreon. And otherwise, again, all of my shows are public. But I usually put them public a week after I do them because YouTube is really slow. I used to put them up the day after, but YouTube has done some really weird things on monetizing. And sometimes you have problems with the monetizing issues and it takes a week they do all kinds of strange things. So in order to keep this channel alive, I do need to have my videos monetized as much as possible. Although the other day I did a thing on the Shenandoah murders and my video was demonetized and I was demonetized due to these two words, hunting grounds. Somebody told me they thought that the hunting might have been misinterpreted as having a C, but who the heck says that? But I got demonetized, so and you can't keep this channel going unless you have advertising and support from patrons and subscribers. So anyway, but hey, you watched that video? Were you offended by the hunting grounds? I was like, what the heck? I guess that they thought it was something else. I'm like, even nobody says that. How did you even? I had a human review. I understand if it was picked up, because I always do a review that's just done by electronics or whatever they do. But then when they come back and they demonetize your video, you can ask for a human review. My human review came back that those 2 words made it that advertisers wouldn't want to advertise on my channel, because I said hunting grounds. For shame, Pat. I have no idea what the human thought they heard. But I'm going to say they thought the beginning word was not hunt, but something else. What can I say? Anyway, thank you for being here, and it was great to be here today. It was great to be able to wear pretty clothes. I love Indian clothing. That's why I want to retire to India. If I could get up every day and put on saris and salwar kameezes and wear jewelry and my bangles. I love my bangles. Anyway, it's a nice thing, and especially when you're an older person and you can't depend on this part looking that great or even that part looking that great. At least you got pretty clothes. So anyway, thank you for being here, and I will see those patrons who might be here for the hangout during the week. So probably on Thursday, I'll see you again. Bye-bye.